There are a lot of abilities in Pokemon, over 300 now. Some are good, some are bad, and some would break the game if they were given to certain Pokemon. So in this video, I'm not going to be doing that like I did with moves because it would be super obvious and boring. It would pretty much consist entirely of, let's give this already strong Mon huge power, which wouldn't make for a very interesting video. So instead, I want to focus more on abilities that see little to no use, not necessarily because they are bad, but because they are bad on the specific Mons that get them, theorizing what Mons could actually take advantage of them. I will be enforcing the rule of no abilities or Pokemon that are banned in the almost any ability format of Smogon to again prevent things that are obviously broken and to prevent all you comedians in the comments from saying Regigigas would be broken with Honeygather or something like that. Keep in mind that none of these abilities are supposed to make sense thematically. This is just a fun thought experiment, although some of them may end up making sense anyway. First, we have Flower Veil on Iron Leaves. Flower Veil prevents the Grass-type user and its Grass-type allies from having its stats lowered and being affected by status conditions. If the user or allies are not Grass-type though, this ability has no effect. None of the Mons that get this ability are Grass-type, so in practice, you have to either Terra to Grass to have this ability take effect, or use it in conjunction with a Grass-type ally in doubles. If Iron Leaves got this though, a Grass type, it would actually be useful. Being protected from stat drops and status conditions is essentially Clear Body and Comatose in one ability, which is a very solid use. I chose Iron Leaves for this since I felt that it was the best, more offensive Grass type that doesn't already have a great ability, since Mons like Rillaboom, Hydrapple, the Ogerpon forms, and Breloom would probably want to keep their existing abilities, although Ogerpon would probably be the next best option. In doing so, Iron Leaves does have to give up Quark Drive, but its signature move Psyblade would still get a boost in electric terrain since that property is tied to the move. I don't think this would be broken, since the speed or attack boost from Quark Drive is still pretty decent and may even be better, but being immune to stat drops and status conditions would allow Iron Leaves to not be affected by Intimidate, Sticky Web, Icy Wind, Burns, or anything else like that could hinder its offense. This would allow it to be much more free to set up with things like Swords Dance, Agility, and Trailblaze with its already high attack and speed, with great attacking options like Psyblade, Leaf Blade, and Sacred Sword. Next, we have Slow Start on Cresselia. Slow Start is a garbage ability, one of the worst in the game, but on Cresselia, it would be kinda good. Slow Start, as you're probably quite familiar, halves the user's attack and speed for 5 turns. Cresselia's main role in doubles is as a Trick Room setter and supporter, but its speed isn't even that low. It's actually the same as Rillaboom, Archaludon, Quaquaval, and Ceruledge at 85. Slow Start would halve its speed, making it faster in Trick Room, and it wouldn't mind its attack being halved because it's a special attacker. This wouldn't make it take less damage from Foul Play though, as the target's ability has no effect in the Foul Play damage calculation. I was still curious as to how much this affects Cresselia's attack and speed exactly, so let's assume that your level 50 Cresselia has a 0 attack IV, a 0 speed IV, no attack and speed EVs with an attack lowering nature, since attack is probably the more important one to lower. Slow Start would make its effective attack stat 33 be equivalent to a base attack stat of 32, and its effective speed stat would be 45, the equivalent to a base speed stat of 40. Cresselia also gets Skill Swap to swap this ability onto an opponent, which could completely cripple any physical attackers in the event that it doesn't want to use Slow Start. In doing so, Cresselia gives up Levitate, which is a little unfortunate as a ground immunity is a very solid use, but I do think that it's kind of funny that Slow Start could unironically be good on the right Pokemon. Cresselia has plenty of ways to disrupt its opponents, support its allies, or make it an overall nuisance of a Mon to deal with, since it gets moves like Ally Switch, Double Team, Moonlight, Lunar Blessing, Calm Mind, both screens, Thunder Wave, Trick, and what I already mentioned, Skill Swap. Next, we have Merciless on Salazzle. Merciless is the signature ability of Toxapex, as I mentioned in my Pokemon that don't use their signature ability video, and it causes the user to always land a critical hit on a poison target. This is not great on Toxapex since it is not an offensive Mon at all, but rather a defensive Mon that has a way better defensive ability option with Regenerator. On Salazzle though, Merciless would fit very well, as its stats are quite the opposite to Toxapex, being high offense and low defense. As a special attacking poison type, Salazzle would be the perfect user of Merciless since it can poison its opponents with toxic and toxic spikes and then hit them with a super powerful Venoshock. Venoshock is a special attacking poison type move that doubles in base power from 65 to 130 if the target is poisoned, which will also always land a critical hit from Merciless. Poison is negated by the steel type, but that's where Salazzle's secondary type comes in handy since fire hits steel for super effective. This would be really good, but I don't know if it would be broken because we have things like Stab, Guts, Facade, Ursaluna with a 140 attack stat in the game, but it gives Salazzle a very solid use in various competitive formats. In doing so, Salazzle gives up Corrosion, which allows it to poison steel and poison types, but this ability does not allow Salazzle to deal any more direct damage, just more indirect damage, something that doesn't fit as well on it since its stats are inclined as being an attacker, not a staller. Next, we have Own Tempo on Haxorus. Own Tempo prevents the user from being confused, and from Gen 8 onward, also protects the user from the Intimidate attack drop. This is a decent effect, but most mons that get it have other abilities they would rather use instead, so it doesn't really see a lot of use. On Haxorus though, it would fit quite nicely. Haxorus has a monstrous 147 attack stat with a good, not amazing 97 speed stat. It was really good in its debut generation, but hasn't really been able to keep up in the modern competitive scene since fairies now exist and speed inflation is a thing. With Own Tempo though, that would allow it to use Outrage without getting confused, and would prevent it from having its attack mitigated from Intimidate, both things that limit its power. With Dragon Dance for setting up, either Poison Jab or Iron Head to hit those pesky fairy types, and Earthquake to hit those pesky steel types, Own Tempo on Haxorus would be very solid. I don't think Haxorus would mind giving up any of its existing abilities, since Rivalry is bad, Unnerve is okay, but doesn't really offer anything offensive, and Mold Breaker is pretty situational on Haxorus, so Own Tempo would be very much welcomed. Next, we have Anger Shell on Mamoswine. Anger Shell is the signature ability of Cloth, and it causes the user's attack, special attack, and speed to increase by one stage when its HP falls to 50% or below, at the cost of lowering its defense and special defense by one stage. This is a really cool ability, but due to Cloth's bad stats, bad typing, and only decent move pool, it can't really take advantage of it very well. Now I think this ability could be good on a lot of different Pokemon, but I chose Mamoswine specifically for a few reasons. It has a phenomenal offensive typing and gets good stab options with Earthquake, Icicle Spear, Icicle Crash, and Priority Ice Shard. It has naturally high attack and average speed that is definitely workable with some boosts. What it lacks though is a reliable way of setting up its attack and speed, and a good offensive ability. Thick Fat is solid, as it gets rid of Mamoswine's fire weakness, but it doesn't really help it offensively. For setup, the only move that can raise its attack is Curse, which isn't ideal since it lowers speed, and no, I'm not counting the 10% chance of the Ancient Power Omni Boost. With Mamoswine's high HP, taking a hit that puts it at or below 50% shouldn't be much of a problem, and that can always be assisted by Substitute. I could see a loaded dice Anger Shell Mamoswine set being good, with it using Icicle Spear and Rock Blast for multi-hit moves, Earthquake for ground stab, and maybe Substitute to help activate Anger Shell, or some more coverage options like Iron Head and Knockoff. I don't feel super strong about this pick though, so let me know if you can think of any other mons that would be good candidates for Anger Shell. Hey, it's me from the future. So I tried each of these abilities on the Almost Any Ability ladder in Showdown, and I made some mistakes, so I'll be correcting them here. It turns out that you can't actually activate Anger Shell if your HP gets to half or below from a Substitute, since it has to be from an attack, which was pretty lame to find out. It also does say this in the in-game description, which I totally missed. Next, we have Flare Boost on Lucario. Flare Boost is a signature ability of Drifblim, and like Merciless, it's another ability I mentioned in my Pokemon that don't use their signature ability video. Flare Boost is essentially special guts that only works for burns, which is solid but not great on Drifblim. I think Lucario would be a great user of Flare Boost though for a few reasons. The Flame Orb can consistently get it burned, it has high enough special attack and speed, a great move pool to work with, and it's probably the mon with the most mid ability options out of all the other mons I looked through. It has great setup options with Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, and Agility, Solid Stab with Flash Cannon and Aura Sphere, Priority Stab with Vacuum Wave, and coverage with Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, Psychic, Dragon Pulse, and Water Pulse. Now you might be thinking at this point, why not just give Lucario Guts? It has a way better physical move pool. And yeah, I could do that, but Guts has already proven to be a good ability, unlike Flare Boost, which is stuck on a Mon that doesn't even want to use it. And the point of this video is more about abilities that would be good if they were on the right Pokemon, and Lucario is definitely the right Pokemon for Flare Boost. Next, we have Sand Spit on Palossand. Sand Spit is the signature ability of Sandaconda, and it causes the user to set Sandstorm when hit by an attack. This is mostly just a less consistent version of Sandstream, since if your goal is to set Sandstorm as part of a Sand team, you'd much rather have it activate on switch-in than on hit. The reason that this would be good on Palossand though, is because of Palossand's signature move Shore Up, a recover variant that heals 2/3 max HP during a sandstorm. If Palossand needs to recover its HP, chances are that means it's been hit, so Sandstorm is probably active. If you don't hit Palossand, it can set up its defenses since it gets Iron Defense, Amnesia, and Stockpile, and it can set hazards with Stealth Rock. It could also curse you since it's a ghost type and heal that HP back with Shore Up. In doing so, Palossand gives up the chance of using Water Compaction and Sandveil, which I don't really think it would mind. Sandveil is banned in most singles formats, and Water Compaction doesn't offer a water type immunity like you might expect, so it's only okay. Like Lucario, yeah, I could just give Palossand Sandstream and call it a day, but again, Sandstream has already proven to be a good ability, unlike Sandspit which hasn't, and would actually be decent on Palossand. So I tested this in almost any ability, and I've had decent success with using Sand Tomb and Nightshade as kind of a stall set, with Sand Tomb taking away 1/8 HP, Sandstorm chipping 1/16 HP unless you're immune, and Nightshade for consistent damage. I'd actually argue that Sandspit is better on Palossand than Sandstream, since people tend to use a lot of weather setting abilities in this format, and being able to reactivate Sandstorm on hit after it's been overridden by another weather, or after your own Sandstorm has run out is really valuable, since you don't have to switch out and you can keep your stockpile boosts. Lastly, we have Flower Gift on Ogerpon Hearthflame. Flower Gift is a signature ability of Cherrim that changes Cherrim to its Sunshine form when exposed to harsh sunlight, and increases its attack and special defense and its allies' attack and special defense by 50%. You might be thinking that this is a form change ability, so how would this work on another Pokemon? Well, it's true that Flower Gift is responsible for changing Cherrim's form, but this form change is purely aesthetic and has no actual impact to the effect of the ability. In Legends Arceus, Cherrim actually does have different stats in its Sunshine form, but Legends Arceus doesn't have abilities, so they had to make a weird exception here, which isn't how it works in other games. Anyway, Flower Gift's effect is essentially a no drawback Choice Band and Assault Vest in the sun that also affects your ally. For this entry, I actually do think that this would be broken, but it's not one of those ones that's obviously broken like Huge Power or Wonder Guard, so I decided to leave it in. As a physical attacking fire type, Ogerpon would be absolutely thriving in harsh sunlight, with a 50% attack boost from Flower Gift and a 50% boost to fire moves from Sun, effectively resulting in a 2.25 times boost. The special defense boost makes it even more bulky, which is a great bonus, but what really makes this insane is how this would combo with Groudon or Koraidon in doubles, both physical attackers that set Sun with their abilities. This kind of breaks my rules, since these two are banned in almost any ability, but I'm not giving them the ability, I'm giving it to Ogerpon, so I'll let this slide since it's my video. Anyway, the attack and special defense boost would go insane on these two, and with Ogerpon getting Follow Me and Helping Hand, it would be a menace of a supporter to either Groudon or Koraidon. As far as I know, almost any ability doesn't have a doubles format, but if it did, this ability should instantly be banned. So bad news, I went to try this out in almost any ability myself, and it seems that Flower Gift does only work on Cherrim. My Ogerpon was getting no attack or special defense boosts in the sun even though it had Flower Gift, which I guess makes sense since even though the form change is purely aesthetic, it is still a form changing ability. So yeah, this ability is completely useless on other Pokemon other than Cherrim, but it would be busted if it did work on other Pokemon. And those are bad abilities that would be good if they were on the right Pokemon. here are some more abilities that I was considering but couldn't really think of any specific mons they would be good for. Anyway, if you want to support me and my channel, just leave a nice comment, since I do read all comments. You can also become a member for 99 cents USD to get a badge next to your name and early video access like all of these lovely people. Likes are also one of the ways that YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves to be, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.